have a pumpkin, so I don't know what the smoke is like.
Yes.
All right, Jerry, I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay, let's go 2 more minutes in case somebody pops in. I'm guessing nobody will because most people aren't interested in this one.
The
It is
nitty gritty, yeah.
Oh, I think we can think things right about on this. But I'm working on it. I can't figure it out yet.
Let me know what angle you want me to take.
Yes.
Well, B, we're gonna take care of your concerns one way or another.
There we go.
And,
Time will tell.
That's not be a which way. That didn't give me much of a hint.
I'm open-minded about it.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I like what you suggested. Anyway, we'll get to that.
That's business.
Overwhelming.
Yeah,
We're just over this week.
I know. I didn't think it was that.
Yeah.
Because I just did-
Yeah, it's been a year and a half.
Okay, that's all I need.
So. Kind of figuring things out.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're
Right.
and like how to.
Mine is, let's go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you know what? Miles and.
Got my-
We're live.
Yep.
I got my eyes fixed like you told me I should.
Okay, everybody,
Now I need these.
it's 5:30 and we'll call this meeting of the planning commission on July 27th to order. And it looks like we have all of the planning commission members in attendance. The first part is citizens to be heard, and do we have anybody on? Nobody on. We'll go on to ex parte communications and disclosures. Do we have any? Seeing none, move on to approval of the meeting minutes. I'll entertain a motion.
I need to approve the minutes.
I'll send it.
Okay, any discussion, any changes? All right, let's have a vote, all in favor,
All I'm saying, because I was on here.
okay, any opposed, one abstention? And motion passes. No presentations on the agenda. Anything, Andrew?
Nope.
Okay, then we'll move on to county commission.
Okay, just very quick, our July 21st meeting, we had the water use and element and that passed 6-1 with Hadeen opposed. We had the Burr Oaks, it was labeled as subdivision, but rezone, that failed 3-4 with Hadler, Hadeen, McGann and Winfield opposed. We postponed the major utility overlay, as you can see that will be coming up. The DT minor subdivision, and I'm not sure how to say this, Jarvis plat amendment. So you guys have any questions about that?
That Hadeen.
I know. Well, do you mind if I give you my, I did ask for some amendments that, I think quite a few people had talked about amendments, and so I asked for some amendments and they weren't considered, so I want to vote for it.
And it went 6-1.
6-1, yes.
You need to work on your powers of persuasion.
I know, I know, and so I always say that when people say, you guys vote as a block, I'm like, if you go to my voting record, it's 6-1 a lot. Okay with that, okay with that.
Yeah. So that's what deliberations are.
That's right, the voice of dissent,
Got a question on that?
yeah,
Okay, so both the Burr Oaks and the Novak subdivision. I mean, when we were deliberating this, it was like about just looking at the land, and you guys talked a lot about the traffic study.
yeah,
So, and then the Novak thing was the same thing.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of like surprised when I saw that vote. I was like wondering, one, and sounds like we need a traffic study.
right,
And two, like, I was kind of like confused, like, oh, you guys addressed that whole, traffic item but we were told not to, but focus on the fact, just the land use and then the subdivision. Is that kind of how I should be thinking of this? Is the subdivision was going to be the approval of the traffic, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay. I just
Just-
wanted
yeah.
that to be cleared up.
Typically, it isn't at zone change.
Yes.
Because you don't know, they could go for half acre lots, but only put one house on it. Said that's all they wanna do on the 8 acres.
Okay,
And so then there should be some type of threshold that if you've got a certain number of troops per day, then you need a traffic analysis. If you have less than that, you don't. And, I mean, just rule of thumb is each residential unit is 10 trips a day. But anyway, to the point is, we should have on the next commission agenda, discussion about a traffic sub-region traffic study in that area going out to Highway 191, Spanish Valley Drive. I think it's up around the street on the north and then the San Juan County line on the south, just because we've had no record of this. We've had others that are wanting to come in, but we ought to just,
so is that done through us then, or like I thought, like a traffic study would be more like? a
no, we'll probably have like Horrocks. So yeah, so the county commission will look at an application from Horrocks probably because we already have an ongoing contract with them.
Mhm.
So it'd be a contract amendment to the existing contract for a traffic analysis
Okay,
of that sub-region.
yeah,
And then they can move on to things.
okay, so that won't need a recommend, like, we don't need any recommendation to the commission to be like, hey, do a traffic study kind of.
No, I
Okay.
think they've already got that figured out, but where Oaks can only come back on, I guess they could request it, but it's typically one of those who voted no would bring it back up again.
Mhm.
Those two are before me, Jerry.
Barry?
I was just gonna say with a, with a traffic study, that'll generally, all the information that we get from that will tell us what kind of roads and sidewalks and things that we need in the county, and that will show up in our land use code. We currently have that in our land use code.
Yeah.
So, but the one thing I think we really need to work on, because it's so old, it's 1999, I think,
Oh, I think.
is our Grand County construction standards for road department
Mhm.
and the sewer department. I was looking at it the other day, because it's still the same kind of road signal information. And I don't think the road department's changed much of it, but the engineering, once we get this traffic study done, may very well decide that we need different kind.
Right.
That falls in the general plan?
No,
It's a construction standard,
and
Okay,
it's amendment two.
and so it says like, what type of fire hydrant you
Yeah.
have, or what.
because I know we recommend things about general plans being updated, I don't know. if you-
It's a part of the general plan, it's an amendment,
Mhm.
because we use it in the land use code, we
Okay.
use the information in the land use code. Anyway, it hasn't passed an amendment to the general.
I
But
think
it's
Megan is.
99.
For me, Jerry.
I have,
Megan?
I have a thought and a follow-up to Aaron, because I was also very confused by the process for that. When we address the traffic study, I know when San Juan County was doing their clinics on their land use or their general plan workshops out at Spanish Valley Clinic, they heavily spoke about doing traffic studies because they were discussing creating some traffic to Spanish Valley Drive from the highway. It would be worthwhile. As I've said before, we're talking about one side of the county line versus the other. It would be worth it to us to reach out to them, see if they have a traffic study that they are already planning, and try to work together to where we're not just going for the same answers a block away from each other.
Yeah.
It would be wise on both sides for both counties.
And then additionally,
Yeah,
I've said this before, but the county needs to decide what kind of county it wants to be. So if you look at Clark County, Las Vegas is actually really small, and there's only a few casinos on Main Street there. The whole strip, Circus on down, that whole area is unincorporated Clark County. The temple's unincorporated Clark County, the airport, unincorporated Clark County. Most of the population lives in unincorporated Clark County, but you wouldn't know it if you were driving and you went and left the city and went into unincorporated Clark County, you wouldn't know unless you have a map,
Right.
because it's urbanized. Utah County, for instance, has 800,000, 1,000,000 people, 8,000 are in the unincorporated area. So they only allow like 20-acre lots. If somebody wants to do something more than that, they tell them to go get annexed into a city. So Utah County we're rural, we don't provide any services. We have people on septic tanks and wells, all that kind of, so Grand County needs to determine if they want to be a rural county and have rural roads, or are they wanting to be sort of a urban county and be more like you would know the difference when you're leaving Moab and going into unincorporated Grand County. So that's a policy decision that's above me, but just something that needs, because the development standards that call for the road, the pavement, the slope, the curb and gutter, sidewalk, et cetera, all those kind of things need to be based off of, are we a rural county like 1999 or 1991? Or we want to be an urban county and update things to that urban code. And of course, water and sewer, we play no part in, because those are under the special service agency.
I did just have one follow-up to Aaron on this rezone specifically. Because we sat here as a commission with people during public comment who were concerned about roads and traffic and all of these things, and we continued to tell them this was not a conversation that we were having because this was a rezone. But all of those questions happened at the county commission level. And I don't know if this is something that we need to just clarify when something's going from planning and zoning to the county commission, but if people are coming for public comment and we're telling them that this is not the time for that, but then those are the reasons that commissioners are voting for or against something, I think we lost direction somewhere between point A and point B. And I just want to understand if we need to change that process.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and it falls to the planning commission is administrative. Even though you may make recommendations for zone changes, et cetera. By constitution, by the state constitution and the US Constitution, only elected officials can create law, right? That's what I was talking about, like judges legislating from the bench, they're a different area of our powers. And so with the planning commission, even though there's recommendations for zone changes or zoning map amendments, et cetera, changes to the code of the general plan, those are advisory only and limited in what that is. But the county commission, because they're legislative, they have broad legislative powers, especially in Utah, where they can deny a zone change based off of public clamor.
I was just curious because I feel like we would have had a different conversation at the table if we were focusing on road traffic or infrastructure or those things. I think I can speak for all of us that we probably would have had a very different, maybe would have voted the same, but we would have been bringing other things to the table and addressing the comments that the public was making too. So I just wanted clarification on that.
Has it been clarified?
I think as good as it can be.
I just
That
have a
was a
quick statement and then I'll.
situation.
We got
Yeah,
Trish and then we'll-
I know the other, and I don't know, Mary or Andrew, how this comes into play, but UDOT, recently I was at like a regional planning meeting with UDOT and kind of talking in long range, and they're not going to be able to fix a lot of things in the near future, but one thing they said that is imperative is these acceleration lanes. The reality is Stocks Drive, I think, is a perfect example of that. Stocks Drive getting onto the highway is deadly and people have died there. Period, in the last couple of years. And so I think, to think about those things and the improvements just on 191 that can be done to help, and that's obviously not in our purview, but you know, I know UDOT is looking at that, like what are some short-term things we can do to help the situation in this valley, and it's those acceleration lanes, cause it's bad,
And we want that answered by the Horrocks study.
right?
So you have the macro traffic simulation that looks at things holistically, the
Yeah.
whole area.
Right,
But then you can also do micro simulation on,
okay,
that intersection
Okay.
or
Small
whatever.
changes.
Very small detail.
Yeah.
And that's what we're expecting that to come out of the.
it's definitely a
traffic.
Frogger type of situation, especially going south.
That bridge is.
You've been waiting patiently.
No, I didn't have my hand up. I was hoping I would get in before Trish, because it really would have been put back there, but my question is about legislative. I do understand that the county commission they can make these legislative decisions. But my understanding is we do make a distinction between legislative stuff. That is, when we are working on the general plan, we can do all kinds of talking with people outside, and that's not ex parte communications. And that we are to listen to public clamor. That is, in those cases, we can listen to people saying, well, you know, I'd rather have this place be dense than this place. And we can listen to that public clamor, and I still like to use the word public input. So I think I usually look at the job we're doing as divided into some things that are administrative, like approving a particular project that somebody's coming forth with us versus legislative stuff. So I think that distinction is important for us to remember, but we certainly don't have the power that the county commissioners do.
And there's a distinction
Yeah.
with the public clamor of saying, well, there's 5 people here who are mad about this project, so we're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The county commission can do that.
Yeah.
Right? The planning commission, that's gonna be harder to say, this complies with the general plan, this complies with the zoning, this complies with this, but we're gonna deny it because there's 5 people here complaining
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
That's probably not something the planning commission would wanna get into. Maybe they do, but that's clearly something that the legislative,
Yeah.
the county commission.
I'll probably listen to those folks. I especially like a diversity of opinions, so it's very nice to get something like that. And you have to weigh whether they're all from one family or one side that's organized, right? When you listen to those things, but I listen to those ideas because I think they're important in legislative decisions.
And just like you have findings when you go through something.
Yeah.
At the county commission meeting, they had to come up with findings, they denied it, but then they had to come up with the findings as to why they denied it, because then allows the applicant the ability to correct those things and come back. But
And I should just make myself clear, there's of course a whole bunch of things that are administrative and clear that somebody has a property right to do something on their lot, and people can come in and clamor all they want. We've got an obligation to follow those land use codes.
Randy,
I just had a question, to Trish here. The county's done this a long time. They've approved and disapproved subdivisions. We know the road situation they have for years.
Yeah,
It's no secret.
yeah,
So why don't we just have the folks that are now doing our planning, create areas that need to be looked at? And if there's a traffic study, let's make a list of things the developer has to do or the property owner so that they can have this prepared in time for a meeting. Now we go, everybody has egg on their face. I feel terrible for them. Oh, you're kidding. Now they get kicked in the teeth by our county commission? After they come through and laid everything,
no, I'm not.
Laid
gonna-
everything
I'm not-
out,
I'm not gonna jump in.
and I look at it and I go, really? This is how unorganized our county is? Oh, by the way, a traffic study would be nice. Really? Who owns the road? The county. Who knows about the road? The county. Who's been responsible for the road for years? The county. We know all this stuff is going on. We've known it for years. And if you don't want them to develop it because you don't know about the roads, is the county gonna pay for that traffic study or is the individual? I paid for several. in this
Will
county.
you pay for this one?
No,
I'm
it's not my deal.
I'm messing with you.
But I would, if the county come to me, probably I would have to. That's been my luck.
May I make a, no, and this
But I don't
isn't to
understand
you,
why
I'm a whole,
We sit here and we all look at it and we discuss it, and sometimes we agree, sometimes we
Yeah.
don't. But to send it on in good faith, which I thought we did, good subdivision, looked good, it's only a few lots. Any engineer, I can pick up a phone and call any engineer what was just said tonight, and he's gonna say, oh, about 10 units. 10 trips a day on a house. Well, how hard was that to pick up a phone with somebody in the commission during the meeting and say, is that gonna be allowable on our roads? Well, is that okay? And instead, now this guy's gotta come back and he's gotta get somebody who voted it down to pick it back up and put it on the agenda. If they won't, he don't. It don't happen.
He does have
Start
the
the process all over.
opportunity to
To
those
cure?
findings, to cure those findings.
Okay, how much time do they have to cure? it? We don't know.
You can
But
read back in your application.
Is
Just my question is like,
unless it
We
gets,
have plenty to debate tonight.
I get frustrated with that.
I
Unless it-
understand your
and
frustration.
unless it gets pulled off the
And this is
agenda,
frustrating to watch,
there will be a
that's
sub-regional.
all.
I gotta say, this is probably the longest county commission update.
I know, sorry.
Okay.
Can I make one final
Sure,
statement?
sure.
My hope is with the updated land use code and eventually updated land use map, the zoning map. That we won't have to have these debates anymore. I think if we got to, am I wrong in saying that? Like, I think if we get to the point where we have an updated zoning map, because we don't. We
No,
have a vision of maybe with blobs, but when we get to 90-degree angles, zoning map, we shouldn't have to debate this anymore. People know they're gonna buy a small lot residential or whatever, compact neighborhood, whatever it's going to be. And that's what it should be. And so hopefully that's where we'll be. Am I wrong in saying that? And I think that'll be an intensive process with you all. Hopefully it'll involve the community.
It's a
I
good
mean, I
next-
envision like,
It's a good next step. Trish,
Yeah.
But I gotta say, that's not gonna end traffic studies.
no, I understand that. I understand that. But I'm hoping some of these, like you said, Randy, you'd hope a developer can go, I have this. I know what the zoning is and I can move forward. with
Here's
it."
my checklist.
Right.
And like I say, unless it gets yanked from the agenda, there will be a proposal for a sub-regional traffic study at the next county commission meeting that includes the bigger area.
Yeah.
All right, so we finished the county commission update for the second.
Jeez, sorry.
Thanks to Commissioner Hedin. We have no public hearings, so now we're on to the general business. And we have a couple of things, the land use code audit. Number one, Andrew, do you want to lead us through?
Yeah, and so you've received previously, and again, the land use audit that was done by Sunrise Engineering. There's a few other things that as we're getting into this that we would like some information back from the planning commission to direct Sunrise. One is the gross density versus the net lot size, and we had discussed a little bit last time. So when you look at the density of a property, look at the gross density. So it's 1 acre lots, you have 10 acres, you have 10 lots, right? However, there's the net lot size that may be different. So in other words, if you have 10 acres and you have 10 1-acre lots, that's not gonna work because you have to have roads, et cetera, in there, right? And so then, net lot size, what a lot of places will do is they'll say, instead of 43,560 square feet for an acre, which everybody should have memorized, along with their spouse's need. So 43,560, and then, have that as actually the net lot size would be 40,000 square feet. So an acre lot net is 40,000 square feet. Half acre net is 20,000 square feet instead of 21,708. So that's something that we would like some discussion on, but I know it's not where we could take somebody who has 1,000 acres, give them a density at 40,000 square feet and they get, 10% more in density, just because we're doing this gross versus net acreage. Well, there's just a lot of people that they have an acre, but they have to dedicate right away. And so that takes them just below what that would be
Yeah.
if we go 40,000 or the 20,000 or 10,000 for a quarter acre lot. So that's.
Andrew, is it? I just have a procedural question to ask. Would it be in the best interest for our code reviewers if we address these to the extent possible today, each of these items?
It could help, you know, and if it's something that you want, some time to ferment. And come back at our next meeting and say, this is where we are, you know, have discussion on this and kind of as.
I guess I'd-
Looking voice and thing, but
Yeah, I'd like to ask the planning commission members. Do you want to try to plow through this to the extent possible today, or do you want to do some additional? Put some additional thought into it before we plow through in detail?
I would know.
Since you're the one that's probably the most familiar with line and verse.
I'm not quite understanding what we're asking the Sunrise to do tonight. I don't know if we're asking them to add, because we haven't got a real, I mean, this is an audit, it's saying here's how we're going to do it, but they're not giving us anything yet. 4,000 square foot or 40,000 square foot audit or,
well,
Yeah.
yeah, whatever you're calling that. I think that's kind of crazy. I mean, I don't know why we did, I don't know if I've ever heard of it being done, but it hasn't, I just haven't heard it. Because generally you take, you know, you get 10 acres, you get 10 lots. But you have to build the roads and you have to build the drainages, and sometimes that takes a lot of your land away. And they have to realize that at part of application. I don't know that I would understand, I mean, what if their drainages, especially in our county, or their constrained lands takes more than a 40,000 square foot lot. So, you know, I think it'd be easier. I mean, there's something we probably should chat with Sunrise, because they're gonna see all that while they're out there
yeah,
doing
I've
this.
talked to them.
And they need to be, they need to tell us, well, this is how we suspect it will work the best. Yeah.
Sure.
And that's, so that was my concern there, but I don't know what we're supposed to look at with this audit right now. Is there something
So,
specific?
yeah, so these are some items in talking with, Sunrise that we kind of need to decide at some point as they are writing the code now, because they're in the second phase of it.
Okay.
And there's some things such as, like I say, the large lot residential, 1 acre. So should the lot be 40 feet, 560, or should it be 40,000? I'm not sure that
I
I've
don't,
worked in very many places that have had 43,516. Most places will go 40,000 for an acre, 20,000 for half acre, and 10,000 for a quarter acre. So that's just,
And I'm curious if it is so I'm curious a bit about the problem. I'm sure a lot of people have 1 acre lots. I'm guessing that every time they come in, large lot residential, they say, I'm gonna build a house on it, and they're allowed to build a house, even if the county comes along and says, I'm gonna take an easement out of it. So I'm just like, in Castle Valley, we have the easements taken out of one side, on one of the property things, they took part of my acreage. And so I don't have 5 acres, so I can build a house there. So is it an actual problem? That is, if somebody had a large lot residential and they want to put the house on it and they don't quite have an acre, would we stop them? Or would we stop them in this development that has 10 acres? They want to put 10 houses on it. And even if they fell below, I'm gonna lose count, but it fell below your particular number because of configurations and roads and easements and stuff. We'd probably let them build 10 if they could, or would we not?
no, so,
That's,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, so you have the gross acreage, right?
Yep.
Which is one lot per acre. I think they have 5 acres there, so they wanted to go to
Yeah,
the half acre
that's right.
zoning, right? And so that drops them, instead of having 10 lots, they're dropped to 8. This wouldn't change any of that,
Yeah.
but there could be an instance where if they have just a little bit more roadway that's required to be deeded, and those lots fell below 21,000.
780.
Yeah, 20,070, then like, no, can't do it. You have to have a full half acre, or you have to have a full acre. So if you have less than 43,560, no, you can't build on it.
So, and then just one last clarification question. I would imagine there are a lot of 1 acre lots, because I guess they get probably sold that way in the county. I don't really know. Would we really, if you had to make an easement, a bigger road out there, not allow people to build on their lots?
Yes,
Mary, is that right? Do you deny that?
Are you talking about existing right now?
Yeah, just,
You know, what happens if you've got an acre lot
Yep.
in the county, and this has happened?
Yep.
The county comes and takes, I think it's 40 feet on your front.
Yep.
is what they took. That lot is still buildable. You
Yeah.
still can use that lot.
okay.
It's just a non-conforming lot.
It's a
Well,
non-conforming. Ah,
I beg to differ on that. That, if you've got anything below currently 43,560, you would have to seek a variance, but it can't be self-imposed, it can't be something that's generally in the area, et cetera, right? So I don't know that you can, if it said you have to have 1 acre, you have to have 1 acre.
interesting.
But there's a lot out there right now that don't.
Oh, yeah, and that's another item
Yeah.
on here. I think that's the 2 bullets more down, is that discussion.
Cause the county, when they put Spanish Valley Drive in, the county took 40 feet of land from people.
So I have a question, Andrew, and this is, I think, a timely moment,
Yeah.
Chair. When you say net, 43,560, we know is what it is. We're gonna net 40, we're assuming that 43,560 will help cover the infrastructure of this subdivision.
Yeah,
If I had
3,000.
10.
3,560.
So if I'll throw that in, I'm not sure what the calcs would be on that, because most of my easements are always inside of the individual's property, do my utilities around the outside. All roads have to be dedicated to the county, so I have to give them that 54 feet, depending on what size my subdivision is, if I'm doing curb gutter, if I'm, what I'm doing, and what the density levels will be. So I think we really need to look at that, and the easiest way to make that for that individual is how we should do it. Because that's the guy that can't come out and go buy another acre. He can't go out and buy a half acre. I think, and this is just why we're here, so that the future will go when they need these things of infrastructure, or roads planned, that we try to accommodate the individual as best we can with the zone we're creating, so that they can use their land to the best of their ability through our rules. That's what they want us to do here. That's what people want planning and zoning to do, is have guided development. That's what we're trying to do, without hindering the individual to the point where we've taken them out. So a 40,000 net seems fine. We still know that we're working on a 10-acre parcel, but we know the net at the end of the day could be 40. And that, am I correct?
Yeah, so
Okay.
for instance, if theoretically,
Theoretically.
applied for an 8-lot subdivision on 5 acres of land, you would, a half acre lot, so they've got 5 acres, half acre lots, you would think that they could get 10 lots there. They can't, they get 8, because 1 acre is being used for the cul-de-sac, right, which is fine. And they all, if someone had submitted a subdivision lot in that general area, they are all 0.5 or above. But it's where you run into these instances where there is a need for right of way, or when you're developing your property, you have to put in roads. And so there's gonna be a certain portion of that that's netted out of the gross.
In your experience, has that helped create an easier for development? Is that
Well-
an easier path?
The easiest thing is just to tell people they've got 40,000 square feet or 20,000 square feet or 10,000 square feet. 12,000 square feet, whatever, that is the minimum lot size.
Rather than really break it down by actual acres. square
Right,
foot.
so the 4560,
Yeah,
just say
right, right.
40,000.
So what you're
Love
saying is the entire subdivision would be based on the gross. So if you have 10.1 acres, you could theoretically have 10 lots. But each lot would have to be at least the net.
Mhm.
And that helps
40,000,
cover the
yeah.
infrastructure that goes in.
So in this instance, theoretically, a 5 acre parcel wanting to go to 1/2 acre lots. They get
Get
8.
actually 5 or 10.
Yeah, so they get 8, and they probably dropping it down to 20,000 square feet
And
isn't gonna add any additional lots.
this is common in other counties in your
Yes,
experience.
because you have like a R110, R120,
Or would it,
R140.
would the same logic hold in a much higher density area?
It could, yeah, typically though, it's gonna be, if you're saying, okay, this is a subdivision and it's 12,000 square foot lots. Or it's 10,000 square foot lots. So yeah, if you get like a apartment complex that they get a certain. Units per acre. That's not as translatable as if this is,
Single family homes.
yeah, 1/2 acre
SLR.
lots, so it's 20,000 square feet versus 860.
I like the way you wrote it here in missing lot sizes. That makes sense to me after reading that and hearing the discussion. That makes sense.
The other gross versus the net. That's my-
Yes, the net makes sense.
And then the next,
Aaron, what was, that's something to say.
I just see. I get it, like changing kind of the yardstick, you know, maybe if we just all switch to metric, it'd be better. But, you know, one of the things, I mean, we've talked at length about giving bonus densities for like a 20% increase. I mean, I think about the implications, like all of a sudden, I mean, we're changing the real estate market in the valley here. You know, part of me is like listening to this and I'm like, yeah, 20%, you know. If you wanna measure it with this measuring stick, what do we get out of it? Oh, two units have to be marked affordable? I don't know, it was just some ideas that I had, you know, like this is a major density. Thing out of here that I'm like, I get it, and I think like in a practical thing. No one in a subdevelopment, if you bought one of these things, no one 10 years later is be like, wow, there's 2 extra houses here. I think it just kind of gets absorbed into like these neighborhood characteristics, but like, this is also like. How many hundreds of extra buildings can be put in to this that, I mean, we're giving something up.
And we are not constrained, so.
0.08% is
Yeah.
what you're giving up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you take more than that on roads and infrastructure, and
Yeah,
I build it all, and I give it to you, and then you still can't fund it.
it's,
So don't say you're giving anything up. You're the county, it's not yours. Belongs to the individual.
it's about,
Let's talk about those.
Well, density is a public good.
It's not, it's their right.
I mean, in our
It's their
city,
right.
I mean, Randy, if I build a skyscraper next to you.
Build it. If you can fire protect it, you should be able to build it.
Okay, well, that's one
Aaron,
theory, and there's a
build it.
different theory on planning, and other people in this room have different theories on planning.
I understand.
So like,
I
this
think
is
you
the
do.
debate.
so let's stay on topic here. We're talking about gross versus net.
Yes,
Yep.
easy stuff,
and again,
easy to understand.
we can ferment, allow that to
It's-
ferment before.
It's what, about 8 or 10%, something like that. It's not a big number.
It's still.
0.08%.
8%.
No point, yes. It's
8%.
Yeah, and then the next one is kind of attached to this.
So I guess let's go back to the first question. Do you we want to resolve some of these today, because as we go through the conversation, we could do a vote on them and actually decide if we want to give them some input in this direction. Right?
Yeah.
If you want,
I mean, at this point,
information from me, I can.
at this point, what we're doing is giving them input from the commission. We're not making changes to the code. So I think it would be okay to do that, wouldn't it? I don't know, but what do you folks want to mull over this as we go through it and then finalize the discussion in our next meeting? Or would you rather handle it? Anybody, all those in favor of mulling over another meeting, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're gonna mull another meeting. Let's go on to.
And I can provide more information.
Can I offer, Randy, I get what you're saying, and also what I think there's an overarching thing in this county is like, we've made strides, the city has a lot of like low income housing going in.
Yeah.
And one of the things I feel like we are missing in this county, like the missing middle.
I know.
And it's like projects like Arroyo Crossing, the South Elk, those are the projects that have tackled this missing middle. And at any point, like, I'm like, oh, you know, those are like, to me, I think, you know, people are pointing to these housing developments, be like, housing solved. And it's like, I have a friend that works at USU, makes pretty good money, and she cannot afford a house as a top administrator in USU because, you know, she makes too much for those and make not enough for free market. And it's like, so it's like, I do think, you know, we might differ on those things, but, you know, I guess I know where you stand, Randy. Other commissioners might feel differently on the matter.
Anyways, let's go on to the next one, guys, because we have a few more to cover here today, and then we'll go through and we'll finalize our opinions on the next one.
Yeah, so the next one is just on missing lot sizes, and this was asked to be looked at by Commissioner McCandless. That it's kind of like, you know, from 2 units per acre at 21,000 square feet. Or you drop to 5 units per acre at 8,000, but there's nothing in between that half and fifth. And so one proposal would be to add in a 1/4 acre lot or add in 12,000 square foot lots. So just something to decide if the county wants to stay at 1 acre lot, or they don't want anything less than a 1/2 acre, except in certain circumstances, that's fine. But there may be times that the planning commission, I'm not advocating anything, but that the planning commission or the county commission may look at and say, you know what?
You know,
This wouldn't be too bad at
Andrew,
1/4 acre lots.
the future land use map had a number of those that were not really defined, and it was my thought that some of these steps would be covered when we go through the future land use map and actually adopt code that goes with that. And then, I think you're right, the steps are pretty big, and there's definitely some room for some change there.
Yeah, and so I can have Sundance, we talked about this, Sunrise. I could have Sunrise look at this and, you know, what with proposals of 1/4 acre, 10,000 square foot lots, or 12,000 square foot lots, and you can have
Can you have,
zones that aren't enacted. as
can you
well.
have them look at our future land use map when they do that? Because we left some of those definitions, you guys all remember, right? Some of those were wide open.
Yeah, they've reviewed that, they reviewed the document itself, plus they reviewed most of the 2030 general plan, which is, I don't know,
Well,
300 pages or something.
and if you could have them look specifically at that with regards to the future land use map and see where those might fit. I don't know if others have thoughts about where else some of these, the lot size adjustments might occur, but I thought in lieu of, all right, along with the future land use map, you have a good place for that.
I just think it's, you know, it's like in real life, we talk about acres, 1/2 acres, 1/3 acres, and then we've got the numbers. And I just think it's kind of no brainer to just, because we relate.
Yeah.
And those acre says, no one relates to 21,000 square feet, no one knows what that is. So I just think that is a smart. When we talk about user friendliness of the land use code, like, I think it helps with that.
And again, like, we can come back.
And then if
talk about
it's a Grand County quarter acre lot or an
Yeah.
Imperial quarter acre lot.
It just reminds me that I said a live sketch with Nate Ragazzi on the metric system. Anyway, pre-existing non-conforming lots is accessory structure setbacks. Commissioner, Lundberg brought this up. Plus I'm asked quite a bit about accessory structure setbacks and buildings and homes where you could put a shed on your property, but we also have some pre-existing non-conforming lots that were quarter acre lots, what they are currently zoned as 1 acre. The 1 acre zoning, which then requires an additional setback larger than what you would normally have on a quarter acre lot. They have to comply with that. If they go for a variance on it, then let's say you lose all economically viable use of the land and enjoyment of the land if you can't put a detached structure. No, so the variance is denied. Although there may be houses, lots next to you that built their home and their accessory structure prior to that change to 1 acre. And so they've got it at 10 feet off the property line, but you have to be 15 feet or 35 feet or whatever it is. So one of the things that we can look at is either have like a residential, zone that picks up these lots, or we look at, but then every time we look, you got one exhaust that pops up, or if we can have like something where the standard for setbacks is automatically reduced
Based on lots of.
on lot size as a percentage of what it would be under the 1 acre lots that got quarter acre, so then that reduction in their setbacks, but not to where it violates the building codes or things like that, so.
Everybody kind of get what Andrew's
Are
talking.
you talking about just accessory structures or the exact, or the building, the primary building?
Yeah, so it could be either or, but in most cases, they already have their primary dwelling on there. And so they wouldn't add like a detached garage or shed in the back or something like that, and
Well,
it can be done.
accessory structures are coded differently. When there's even a section in the land use code. Currently, it says an accessory structure needs to be 10 feet off the property line, no matter where you are. But it used to say 3. And I don't know where it changed. And it was just for, not garages necessarily, it's mostly sheds, because if you're attaching it to your house, then it's a part of the primary structure. If it's an accessory structure, then it has a different setback. Currently, that's how it says. But, I don't know if we wanna keep that one in there, keep it up that way, but change it to 3 feet instead of 10
I wouldn't change it to 3.
for a shed. You don't want your shed 10 feet off your property line in the backyard.
Well, I mean,
I like
that's just
2 and a
planning
half.
commission, right?
Well, I mean,
You have to have 1 hour fire rated wall if you're within 3 feet, right?
there you go.
But
But it
that's a
also,
decision for you folks to make,
yes,
so.
and that's what I'm saying, and also, the 3 feet also helps with the drainages, which is another big issue we've always had. Because there are a lot of people out in the valley that built their sheds on the property lines. And then the neighbors complain because the water's flowing over there. But currently it's 10 feet, from property lines for accessory structures, which is what they're called. They're not called garages. But if you build it attached to your house, then it becomes a part of the primary structure. The cities is a little bit different. If it's 12 feet from your house, it's considered part of your structure.
Interesting. I think it's something we should look at and
I do too.
address. I think that's a really good point. Anytime, if we're going to get this lady and people like her in a house, it's gotta be by density. If we've got the infrastructure, if we got the water and the sewer, the capacity to do it, I think we should look at doing it. In any instance we possibly can, not to benefit just the landowner, but to create more housing in the middle by market rate housing. If we don't do that and we leave everything at 1 acre, and I know why it's 1 acre, is because we didn't have water and sewer in the valley for years. And so the state said it's 1 acre, you gotta have a well and a septic tank, and you gotta have an acre. Okay, so we zoned the whole valley that way, that's just how it was. And then all of a sudden, they've decided the subdivision I lived in had a cesspool. We kind of thought it was pretty, and we kept it up and we did all the maintenance on it. But they said, no, you gotta change it. And that was Louis Casitas up in Cedar Hills. And we changed it. And they brought in a sewer and a water. And now those lots could capacity hold easy. They're ½ acre or bigger, any of them could hold 2 houses. But if we're going to help address the housing thing at this level, if we want to help people get housing, we have to help the land developer be able to get density. If we can do that, and yeah, I'm not saying cover the whole valley in small lot residential. But we have to really consider that in a lot of areas that we possibly can get that. And that we can do a road study and say, yeah, the roads can be expanded, and yeah, we can have the density.
Randy, that was one of the purposes of
Really
that
important.
future land use plan, because we
Yeah.
actually put the higher density.
That's
along
what
the
I'm,
roads that could handle
but
it.
I still haven't seen a map yet, and I'd love to have the
Fine,
map.
you should take a look, but
I'd
it's
love
not, a lot of the things.
It's not
aren't
done yet, but it's
A
close.
lot of the definitions are.
I like that, thank you. But that was my 2 cents on that. So yeah, we gotta change some stuff.
Can we go on to the, Aaron?
So I kind of, when I was reading this, I didn't really understand it earlier. So we have 2 things. We have like accessory dwellings, which I think of as ADUs and in actual things, and then we have sheds. Right? They're kind of, is a shed, if it's not on a foundation, is it 3 feet? There's this 2 types of things moving in this, and it's like, you know.
A dwelling unit and a structure are 2 different things.
Right, that's what I didn't quite get in this, like,
And these are accessory structures, they're not ADUs, is what we're talking about here, correct?
Accessory structure.
So these are
Okay.
not places people rent.
That's
okay, so ADUs that still have their, Okay.
They have a whole section in there.
right, and so those ADUs, this isn't a part of that, okay, that's what I was getting on there, I just.
There's a section in land use code 3.3 that's accessory and temporary uses and structures. And it goes into what they are, residential accessory uses. Accessory dwelling units are subject to 3.3 to B, so there's fences and walls, garages, carports, it goes all the way through that.
Yeah,
And then it
yeah.
does the commercial ones too,
okay, that just,
and then it goes
yeah,
into general, so yeah, there's a whole section there that. And then it goes into the ADU, the next one's ADU, so if you go through that section of land use code, you can read all of that.
yeah, it just seems in here that there was a way that like kind of, it was easy to do. But may not fit everything, and it was like a harder one, that had to be like this legislative rezone. And
Aaron, I think what you're bringing up points to, it's a good thing that we're going through some
yeah,
discussion about this today, so we're more clear about.
yeah, that's, okay.
Yeah, you're right, it's
Yeah. Good.
easy to get the 2 mixed.
And where the 10-foot comes from is within the accessory structures and accessory structures. Accessory uses and structures general, 3.3.2. Number 5, the minimum side and rear setbacks for accessory structures shall be 10 feet. For that of the underlying zone district, whichever is less. So if
Okay.
you've got a PUD, you probably already put the less on there,
Right,
but if you just have a permanent, or a regular subdivision, it's gonna be 10 feet.
and Mary, you're advocating for a more standard, like, over everything, like. This accessory structure, which should just be
Yeah,
5 feet
could be
for
sheds
all
and
units.
garages. Well, garages are gonna be different because you're gonna run into, building codes. Building
Okay.
codes are all gonna have
Yeah,
that
yeah.
problem. I'm talking about, you go down and you buy those metal shed, or those, not, they're not metal anymore, they're wood.
Yeah,
People put them on the properties all the time.
yeah,
And I've noticed that when they are installed, and if it's under 200 square feet, you don't even need a building permit, so you're not even gonna see it.
right.
Even the planning department doesn't see it.
So user ease, I think, would be better if everybody just looked, oh, I can put my shed 5 feet away, 3 feet away, 2.5.
As long as it's under, if it's an actual real shed,
Yeah,
but if it's going to be used as an ADU or whatever,
right,
then it becomes something else. But
yeah,
there's also a building code that,
Yeah.
it's got electricity to
Right.
it, it's got plumbing to it, it makes a big difference, and then the building's gonna kick in and change that. But the
Yeah.
actual land use code for an accessory structure, defined as accessory structure,
yeah.
is 10 feet.
I just think that making it real easy for your average citizen to see that would be
But we had,
amazing.
because we had so many problems. with
Because
it.
they're like,
Constantly-
what zoning district am I?
Disappeared. I don't know where it went.
That has happened.
That's why we've got 3 foot sheds, in people's backyards, 3 foot setbacks in people's backyards, because at one point, there was a 3 foot setback, and the building department's the one that pushed it, so. Anyway, I don't know where it went, it's not in here anymore.
Aaron, you okay if we move to the?
Yep, sorry,
Okay.
yep, thank you for clearing.
All right, Andrew, commercial
Yeah,
districts?
commercial districts, and so we ran into this a few times where we've had people who have applied for commercial. Commercial zone change for residential purposes. Commissioner McCurdy, for instance, did that. But then there's the question of, well, if we zone this to commercial, could it become a gas station? Could it become anything that is permitted in the commercial district? Even though what they're trying to do is accomplish higher densities for a residential development. So one option would be to have a commercial residential zone, so in those areas that allow for commercial development, to create a commercial residential zone that allows for things higher than fourplex. Because then you have to get commercial lending associated with it over fourplex. So we've got that, but then also, the state code allows for, and we've got this with the water tank agreement with Moab City, a development agreement as part of a zone change. State code permits that. Now, obviously, that can create problems if they got a development agreement to do certain things. Somebody's got to keep track of that, but the question would be,
Andrew, this is leading right back to that future land use map. If I remember right, we had mixed use zone in there. And maybe this is the place, that's the place to capture
and,
this.
and, and that's where, Commissioner McCurdy's property sat.
Yeah.
But it was denied.
Yep.
So we need
I
to,
remember that.
It never went to the county commission.
No,
That never went to the county commission.
we denied it here,
Okay, but it never went to the county commission.
yeah, not gonna commission,
but that
but it was
was,
denied at planning
he
commission.
was. Yeah,
There
there
was
was,
some law that set in at that time, he didn't
Well-
build it in time.
Mhm.
But he is in the area that is the mixed use, right?
and something like this may have worked for him as well, a mixed use.
A possibility,
Could
right?
you point them back to our future land use plan and the tentative designations we had? And see if this fits in there, because I remember specifically, we addressed some of this mixed use in there.
Yeah, and so that's sort of, like I say, so you have Commissioner McCurdy's that is in the area that is mixed use. He came in to do the higher density residential there as a commercial zone change and it was denied.
Yeah.
And I think the reason it was denied is, once it was commercial, he could do anything he wanted to that was under our commercial thing, but if you had a commercial residential zone,
Yeah,
and you could only do residential, and you wanted it commercial so you could get financing, which I think is what he wanted to do,
that's a
Then
different story.
the hands would be tied, you couldn't use it for commercial things, and we might make a different decision.
Yeah, and so that's the question.
And financing.
Would you
Yeah.
want, yeah, would you wanna do this as create a commercial residential zone that allows over fourplex,
I
right?
think that's in the future land use plan, if we could pull it up now if you want, but I think there's a mixed use in there.
Nice, Sarah.
There you go.
She's carrying,
but we don't have a zone
Well, that's what I'm saying is,
residential, commercial residential only.
Having them write something for us to review. I mean,
yeah,
That would be
we don't
awesome.
like it once it's in the, when they bring it to us, we can always say, hey, it's not gonna work, but let's add it this way. I think putting that in there is a great. idea.
Can I ask a quick question on this particular zone? I'm not sure if it's gonna get focused to adding density, but let's say that I'm building a little store downtown and I want, or along the highway, it's commercial, and I wanna live above it. I wanna live next to it.
that's specifically
We do
what
that
we
in
have
general
in the
business.
future land use plan.
That's what we're trying to create.
That's exactly. what
Above
We actually-
equal density.
We actually have that in the general business district. Above the first level, you can have residential and the general business personally.
Well, I know.
So this question's for Andrew. So each time you've given, as you guys are going through these bullets, you've given examples from mostly from commissioners and also Commissioner Lindbergh. Are these audit bullets ones that Sunrise looked through and said, hey, this is an issue? Or are these issues that came to you and you're trying to address them? Meaning like,
Well,
for example, Commissioner McCurdy came to you and said, would you address this?
oh, he didn't come.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand where they came from.
This is
Yeah,
just an
he doesn't.
example.
Yeah, that was just an example.
Okay.
He's not asking to do anything like that.
No, I understand. I just wonder
Oh,
where
we
these
just had
bullets,
That where, so. Came in, he's got mixed use
no,
in
yeah, I
the
know.
general plan, he wanted commercial, but then there was concern that once he got commercial on his property, he could turn it into a.
No,
gas
yeah,
station.
yeah, I was around at that time. I'm just
Yeah, but
wondering
he
where
did not-
these,
He didn't ask for that, it's just that we've had a couple of these where people have come in.
yeah.
Trish, in either case, there have been a couple of these things that I thought we addressed pretty well in the future land use.
Yeah,
plan,
I
and There's
agree.
really no reason not to move forward.
No, I agree with that. I'm just wondering, like,
Where-
did Sunrise like identify these as gaps or
Yeah.
were these?
Yeah, so these are some things to talk about, also issues that come up, like with the, what's the cul-de-sac off of Plateau?
Serendip, not
No, it's the new proposed one. It's-
Starbucks.
Yeah, so it's in the Bina Vista subdivision. And so, again, there was an instance where they were surrounded by commercial, there's some residential as well. They were wanting to do the zone change on a portion of the property to commercial. But then there's the question of, well, then if they get that, could they do high intensity commercial on their property and have it only access Plateau Drive?
Right.
Well, there's a tire store there now, so why not something else?
So
Yeah,
it's the quick
You're
question
not-
is,
yeah.
do you want it as a, and we can do whatever you want, we can provide several different options, one would be a commercial residential zone, or do you want to get involved in development agreements like we are doing with Moab City on the water tank, because state
Yeah, I
law
think
clearly
the
allows.
more we can write it into land use code, the better.
I agree, 100% agree. More we can get in there to make it, that's better. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're
Aaron,
One of the things I remember, we were talking about this was like. Somebody pointed out, it was kind of funny, like the densities didn't align, like, they were like, why would there's something about, I can't remember, maybe you guys can help me, it was like. The number 18 was important, right? They were like, well, I could get 18 units if I just built houses, but if it was a commercial mixed, I could get, there's some discrepancy in
Yes,
it.
highway commercial allows up to 18.
45 conversation. We were talking about that, cause right now we had one for 18 and we were trying to, remember we were talking about like 30 units and the 45. That,
Yeah,
Sure.
that might have been, what I remember Mike, actually, Commissioner McCurdy was saying, like, above commercial spots are naturally affordable. And they are also like, you know what you're getting into when you're getting in that, and it's kind of a makes. I just remember there was something about
Yeah.
above story commercial
So that's
residences.
General business
Yeah.
allows that
Yeah,
on the second floor and
Okay.
above, but not highway commercial.
that's right.
Highway commercial allows up to 18 units per acre residential.
yeah, that's it,
But
yeah,
then there's that fear of, which is a valid concern, if if you approve commercial on a property thinking that you're gonna have 18 units per acre residential, but instead it becomes a supermart, then there's that concern. So
Yeah.
if they truly are wanting residential, is there?
So how does this overlay with like that idea with this? Is that what we're trying to tease out?
Yeah, so the general plan shows it as mixed use center, or it may show it as highway commercial. Or commercial along the highway. But somebody could come in, if there was a commercial residential zone. That would allow 18 units per acre, but not commercial, only residential commercial, which is anything over fourplex. So a fourplex and below, you can get residential loans for.
Right.
But if you go above the fourplex, then you have to get a commercial loan for.
Okay, I understand that, better, thanks.
Sarah, you're,
So what is your opinion on this, Andrew, with all of your experience in planning?
I do a commercial residential zone. That only allows commercial, or excuse me, only allows residential. So then you do the zone, you don't have to worry if they want to do something other than residential there, they have to come back for a zone change.
Yeah.
Development agreements work.
Is that because it's just one of many tools that we can use? Like, it's like you're saying we can have lots of zoning districts and not even have.
Yeah, some of them we never even use.
I think our future land use plan envision things like that would support residential too, like coffee shops and stuff like that. So would your commercial residential envision certain light commercial?
No, if they're wanting to do that, they would go for a general business.
Okay,
So if they're truly we just want to build something above a fourplex. Or something at 18 units per acre. Residential, that's all you can do is residential there, you couldn't do.
could you mix the two in a PUD? Or would you do a PUD for that?
Well,
Different
so,
zoning.
yeah, so our PUD allows for, it allows in a couple zones a density bonus, but for the most part, it's kind of like that arrangement and setbacks and some of those kind of things are changed with the PUD. There are a number of PUD commercial developments. So we think like where there may be a grocery store and maybe there's a coffee shop or a donut shop or something in the parking lot. Oftentimes, and then each of the parcels in the strip mall adjacent to that. So the insurance place, the karate place, the tanning place,
Right.
those are all individual lots as a commercial plan unit development. So that is something that's done. I don't know if it's done here or not. Mary knows if it's. But there's been commercial plan unit developments.
I've never seen
Maybe the city, right?
them. They may have.
Okay. Any more discussion on the commercial residential?
I think it's worth looking at. I think it honestly would solve, I mean. I don't think it's relevant how it ended up on this piece of paper, but I think it absolutely is relevant to a lot of applications that's come before us that we've had to. Either try to figure out what zone it was appropriate for, or turn applicants away
Seems a
and
better
be the
fit,
roadblock
doesn't
for.
One of the things I really
Developers.
like about this at the bottom of it is could be solved by a development agreement. I think more and more with, as interesting as our county is and different thought processes, it was just elevated here. I think a development agreement, which used to be called contract zoning and when I was going at it hot and heavy, now it's legal. And it makes sense to make it legal, so that's why it's here. I think a development agreement, wherever we can plug that in to make that work, would take care of a mixed use general business. This kind of a high density and housing on, I just think a development agreement, that way the public knows exactly what this guy's gonna do or this developer. If he doesn't do that, that's fine, he has to come back and rezone. Cause once he has that right, he has to come back and reply. I like that.
If I'm hearing you right, you would prefer that over creating a commercial residential type zone?
I would definitely
Would you
lean on
really
that
vote?
if this is needed. I mean, I would say that leave it more open so that you can say these are development agreements that can't be done. And it's gotta be administratively, and I'm sure we can set rules within the administration that says, here it is. So that it doesn't become a political football. I don't want that, but I'm just trying to see ways to make it work for everybody better.
One of the things with the development agreement, if you do highway commercial, it's a whole list of things that could be done in highway
Sure.
commercial. But if somebody's wanting to put a tire store on this corner and you think a tire store is appropriate, but a supermart isn't appropriate, then you can have a development agreement on a property, gets changed to commercial, and it's for a tire store or something similar in impact on
A
there.
way to make it work.
The state law does allow that. It's not required, but it is permitted with a zone
I don't know
change.
how we
Who
do it.
approves the development agreements?
County commission.
That's one of my questions, is how does that get approved? Doesn't come to the planning commission.
But you can look at it
Yeah.
with the recommendation for a zone change. And you can say, hey, look, they're requesting this and send that on to the county commission and say, we only recommend approving this if this development agreement is in place.
And do we do, analogous, do we often do development agreements in this county?
The only one I'm familiar with is
Haven't
the
in the
water,
past.
Moab water tank.
Uh-huh.
That's the only one that I'm familiar with, but that is
Interesting.
also the major utility overlay zone that was created requires a development agreement.
Mhm.
So do you all remember what is it, the zip line place? They wanted to make some changes. Would that have been, could we as a planning commission have said, we recommend approval, but only with the development agreement?
You could,
That would have been a good
That probably
idea.
made the difference.
That would have made the difference for that zip line up. That's right, yeah.
My only thing with like development agreements is it's like. We have like this land use code, which is like the menu, and I'm just trying to think if I was like a person using it. Oh, there was this whole subsection of development agreements that weren't mentioned, I could have done that, like. You know, like in 20 years, like, we all forgot, oh yeah, we were meaning development agreements, I just wonder, You
yeah,
know,
so
it's
they still
like-
have to meet the zone,
yeah.
so they have to be something, so for instance, just use the tire center, even though they're already in the commercial zone, but, so. They would have to already meet, have a commercial, which allows tire shops in them. But then, if there is a concern that once it was changed to commercial, then the supermart's gonna go there, and you don't want a supermarket. A tire store works, but a supermarket doesn't. So you could do that commercial zoning, which could have potential of being a supermarket. But you could do it with a development agreement that it's only a tire, that's a tire shop only. And then that gets approved by the county commission, which somebody bought it later and wanted to turn it into a Chinese restaurant. Then they would have to come back for a different development agreement, it's still commercial,
Yeah.
it's still permitted in commercial zone, but they would have to come in with a development agreement back to the county
Yeah,
commission.
makes sense.
I'm just thinking of, if I own this said corner piece of property, would like, I'm just an average idiot, I didn't know that, you know, kind of thing, I'm just like, that's what I'm a little worried about, like, then it gets all this off the books things that, we've changed, you know, in the future, none of us are here, 3 different planning directors forward, this kind of idea kind of got.
And so it's more of someone comes before you and they comply with the zone that they're wanting change to. And you think, wow, this is a good area for a tire shop.
Yeah.
It'd be really great to have a tire shop there. But the supermarket, not so much, okay? And so you think, well, if they actually did what they said they're doing, that would be okay, but there's always that concern of you change this to commercial zoning. Then they could say they're coming in with a tire shop, but then they come back with a supermarket at that location and it's already zoned commercial.
Okay.
So this would just take away some of that
Another-
concern about, The bait switch.
Toolkit here.
so you less worried about the bait and switch.
Yeah,
So would a development agreement really only be necessary if someone was applying for a zone change?
well, I think the way Andrew described it is, if it's if you're changing zoning to like highway commercial, then it opens up a broad field of things, but that to broad up number of uses, but that particular parcel is not conducive to many of the things in highway commercial. Then in order to get it through the process, it would probably make sense to have the person requesting the zoning change agree to restricting the use on that property under highway commercial to something that actually fits.
So
Those agreements then would be recorded as part of the zone change.
And
So
there's,
it only is gonna be relevant in the case of a potential reason.
so
That's kind of.
Yeah.
I know in state law that it does allow you to do a development agreement if there is a zone change, a legislative action, such as a zone change, and that, I only know that because I'm doing it for the water tank that's coming back, next week. So it's not everything, like you just do development agreements, like say, contract zoning, you can't just do that on just a subdivision or something like that, right? But if you're doing an actual legislative action that changes the zoning of a property, you can do it for that, and there's a list of maybe 7 or 8, and it's all in this, 1779 508 of state code.
It seems to me if we do a good job with this in the land use code, a development agreement will come up so rarely.
You're right.
That's why we're trying to move forward, because we have two pieces that don't talk to one another. And we've become a roadblock for
Yeah.
people trying to do things on their property.
But if we have a really sensible zoning map and really clear guidelines. People know when they buy a piece of property, I can do this. And also if it's reasonable for, what did you call it, the missing middle? Like you guys have already thought this out a lot, taken a lot of public input. I guess I'm just hopeful that if we do a good job here, we rarely need a zone change or a development agreement.
Amen.
What we have again is this, when people do apply for a zone change. It often is brought up, well, yeah, what they're proposing with the zone change would be good, but we can't look at that at all. We can only look at the zone change, and we can only look at the zone change as the highest, most intense use that's permitted in that zone.
Yeah.
And so what the development agreement does is allow you to say, okay, we think this is great for residential here, so let's do this commercial zoning, you can get the 18 units per acre, but we don't want a gas mart there or a supermarket. We just want residential. So they can do a development agreement, and then that takes away that fear of, if we change the zoning on this property.
Oh, sure, I think it's a great idea to give that option to a developer, but like, let's be liberal with this. Right, like, let's think 30 years down the road, what does our county need?
Yeah,
And then people have
the first
option rights.
yeah, I think we're
We need a
moving.
land use code that allows for them to happen. That's what we
And
need.
we do have development agreements written for like HDHOs and those other funding ones that they've recently adopted.
Overlays, yeah.
So they're required to do, development agreements because there's sections to certain things in there that they can do with their setbacks, and they change all the stuff. But a development agreement, as defined by state law, is pretty simple. Means a written agreement or amendment to a written agreement between a county and one or more parties that regulates or controls the use of development of a specific area of land, so it's specific to each parcel, whoever develops it. That's how it's written.
Makes sense.
Right, can we go on to constrained land? Get that one up pretty good, that's good conversation.
So we do have in the water source protection overlay that, so. Just the steam parcel, okay? Part of that is in, water source protection overlay. And the water source protection overlay then reduces the amount of density, gross density that's permitted because constrained land, I'll probably get this wrong, but something like you can only get a third of the units that you would normally get because it's constrained land versus if you just did gross, right? And so the big question of if we have other areas that are not in the water source protection, or aquifer, I guess it's water source protection, so, but may have some other constraints on it or slope, et cetera. And so there's some subdivisions where they have areas of their subdivision that are sloped. They do it as a planning and development, call that open space, and then they're able to move the density off of that steep slope and onto the other land. Question is, can they count that steep sloped area as gross acreage for density calculations for planning and development? Or should there be some type of a limiting factor that says, yeah, well, you really couldn't build on that anyway, so we're only gonna give you a third of the units off of that area or something like that, or maybe just totally.
Our land use code has that already. Maximum allowed density for constrained lands or portion of property that constitutes constrained lands is described in the section. In all subdivision types shall be reduced by a minimum of 50%. In the 5.6 measurement section. So what you do is if you have, and we did it on a couple of subdivisions adjacent to the, they're like,
Like Murphy.
yeah, those areas up there where you have, so you have, say you're allowed 20 units in this area. And 10% of it is constrained land, so an engineering has to bring this to us, we don't do it in our heads. That 10% of land is only allowed to have, you get 50% of your, your density there. So instead of having 4 acres or 4 lots up there, you can only have 2, and you don't build on them. But it's a part of your density and a part of your subdivision. Anyway, there is that. But there's a whole section here, if anybody wants to read it, and it's 5.4. So there's a whole section that talks about constrained lands. And it's something that generally when you do a subdivision, you look at to make sure that, and the engineer does it. I mean, they go up and look at the land and do the surveys, they show where the constrained lands are. And there's also sections in here that says what constitutes a constrained land. And then they bring you that say, hey, you've got 40 acres, you've got 40 lots, but you're only gonna be able to put in 30 because the whole side of it's constrained. So you've still got 50% of your,
In that case, it would be a part of a PUD.
Yeah.
That would come out in that process.
it could be a part of a PUD or a development agreement, or just part of your subdivision if it's put on in your subdivision notes.
Whatever it may be, yeah.
The next is,
I have a quick question on
Yeah,
that.
their hand up for this.
Sorry, oh, I didn't see it, sorry.
Go ahead, Ernie.
When you do that, when you measure constrained land, is it from straight down? It's not like, like an acre straight down on a hillside. If you flatten it out, it's like 3 acres, right? It's all from I always wondered that, oh, yeah.
It could, this is the flat, if this is the lot,
Yeah,
this is the constrained land, you just take that part of the constrained land.
it's based off of the slope.
So
oh,
And
so top down.
it's generally 45 an angle, not 40, if it's a 45 degree.
That's just, I always wondered.
Engineers do it.
Engineers do it, that's great, great answer. Okay.
People like you.
So they know that tree.
Yeah.
Right, Sarah?
I was just wondering is that something you guys talked about with that Murphy Lane subdivision? It's highly dense. It's kind of like right as you turn onto, do you know what I'm talking about? A couple blocks from Mill Creek.
Murphy Flats.
Murphy Flats, is that the name of it? Yeah.
That was an HDHO.
Yeah.
That was
They
it.
still should have had constraint.
Right, yeah, sure.
They're
yeah.
built on, right, against that hillside, and
Yeah.
so. I don't know anything about that. Did the hillside count as part of their land, or I just wondering, because it seems like that is like a situation where. Yeah, I'm just wondering what you guys did or how that.
You
worked out.
probably know if they,
I
Did
didn't,
that
I didn't work,
deduction.
I was
think
out there,
only over-
retired. I came back. and
18
I was
units
asked
an
by the
acre, I don't know
judge
how
to look
many
at it.
acres in total.
Oh, yeah.
That was Steve Evers' property, and I don't know
Is it-
exactly. I mean, it did get approved for HDHO,
Mhm. And I think it was 18 units.
and I
an
don't know
acre is
that
my
we had
memory
much to
said,
do with
but-
what the development would look like on that. I think we just,
But it would have had to comply with land use code at that
Yes.
point.
And it had a lot of
Absolutely.
engineering. I do remember that. When I came back to her, that was what she came in to chat with me about it. And I mean, there were some issues with it, but yeah,
Yeah, I was just curious.
there's a lot of engineering on that. Oh, yeah.
not HDHO that got built.
So I guess the assignment here would be to take a look at our current land use code
Yeah.
and see if we think that fits moving forward.
Well, I think the guy from Sunrise will probably look at it and he works in an engineering office.
So
Is that-
I'll tell you this,
I guess the question is, what, do we keep the old
That's,
standard?
you know,
That's
that's,
what you're proposing.
I think that's something that the guy that's writing our code will let us,
Mhm.
something will, I'm gonna look at it pretty closely.
Okay,
non-conforming structures and uses, non-conforming and non-complying. And we can just turn it out to Sunrise, let them figure out what they think is appropriate there. And then, there's one thing that we've already pointed out that's could change the state law, traditional use decisions as a, well,
Non-conforming.
yeah, so, but we have it as a legislative process, and I think that's what state law is moving towards, so again, it'll just be what we get out Sunrise on that. As they review that section.
well, gotta comply with the laws, so
Mhm.
the lawyer should be able to help us with that.
If he's a planner and a lawyer,
Yeah, perfect. All right, so I guess what we'll do is come back in the next meeting regarding staff recommendation, we'll at least get the county or the planning commission's comments. And we'll go through this again in the next meeting.
Good work, Andy, because you got a lot of good discussion.
The next one on the agenda is planning commission bylaws workshop.
yep, and so we have both the bylaws and then. The planning commission is also governed by Article 8 of the land use code. And so. We made some suggested changes back, I think it was in January, maybe February. With proposed changes to the bylaws. But before that went to the county commission, then we're told that we have to use the template of all their advisory reports used, but that really didn't fit the planning commission. So I asked a few times and then was told it would be okay to have planning commission's bylaws be different than all of the airport advisory board. Whatever, so, these are just some suggestions of deletions and additions to it. The first part is just making changes so it's compliant with what the government is now instead of 27A, it moves to 79. And then going on, we just got some things, on the second page, A there. I think that the bylaws are different than what is listed in the code. And so, we have it as the first item, at the first meeting of the new year. But that might be good to have that at the end of the year. In electing the chair and chairperson, so the last item is the past meeting.
Right now it says, the way it's amended, it says last item of business at the first meeting.
yeah, this is the first item of business at the first meeting, so.
Which kind of makes sense, right? You'd want the new members to elect the
Yeah.
chair and the
Yeah,
vice chair.
yeah, sorry, so it's the last item of the first meeting versus the first item of the first meeting. So before you've got new commissioners seated. Somebody else makes a decision, council, commission, insured. Agree with planning commission versus this planning or the planning commission, I'm sorry. County council to commission. And then if we go down to Article 5 on page 3, 5.4, special meetings, workshops and field trips. So this is
Page, oh, yeah, no.
page 3, it's
Oh, I see.
5.4, special meeting, workshops and field trips. So this is where I misunderstood before when the applicant came in on that property by the arena and wanted to have a pre-application conference, non-binding with the planning commission to see if there are any fatal flaws in their application. So it's not illegal to do, and there's nothing that prohibits us from doing it, but it does expose us to risk. So what I would ask, because somebody could say, well, you said this at the non-binding meeting, and then once I submitted, it was changed to this. And I guess somebody's suing San Juan County because somebody made a comment during the meeting and it was just a comment, and I guess they're suing San Juan County about it. But what I would like then is, so it's in here, I'd like in that section for the planning commission to say no pre-application meetings with the planning commission are committed. So then I've got something. If it's not in there, then I'm not directed that you're not gonna do that. But if you're not gonna do that at any time, then we need to put it into the bylaw so I can tell people when they come in. You can't have a pre-application meeting with the planning commission.
So that's in V.4, we just put no pre-application meetings.
With the planning commission.
Are we, if we're doing this in order, can I mention something at 4.3?
Sure.
I still want to just take out, if requested by the chair, written ballots may be used for voting
Yeah,
purposes.
let's put
We
that in
could
there.
just get that out.
That was sorry, that
Yeah,
was
that's
4.3.
4.3.
I had that scratched out and the other, and that
Great.
didn't carry it over to the.
Good, good.
Thanks
Thanks,
for
Opie,
staying on that,
bringing
Opie.
Yep.
I want to say it was still in there.
It's the one thing I'll be out of.
You're allowed.
So I don't care either way on the pre-application conferences, but if you don't want to have them, then let's just say so I can tell people they don't want to have them.
Well, I think if they have questions, they can go to the planning office and ask those questions ahead
And
of
there is
time.
a difference, yeah, and there's a difference between someone who comes in public comment and says, I'm thinking about doing this under the public comment or citizens to be heard section. I want your feedback versus somebody who's on the agenda and wanting feedback. So it's open that the public could attend, but if you don't want to do those, then let's just make it plain in the bylaws that it ain't happening.
I think that would probably be a lot easier than just turning away an applicant at the table also, because that isn't a good look for us either, and that. I don't want them to think that we're going to shun them and tell them we're not here to hear what you have to say, because we should be welcoming, but there's a time and a place, and I think that that time and place happens at the planning office rather than at the commission table without an application.
And I had no direction on that, so I would appreciate direction on it. And then,
May I? ask Andrew a
Sure.
question on that one? I agree with you, Megan, and would that also be appropriate, Andrew, for them to come to the DRT? I'm wondering like what the process, like they come to you and could they go to is that appropriate? I mean, just,
That, the DRT meetings are just staff.
okay,
They're not
gotcha,
like-
okay,
They're not set up as
Okay, gotcha.
any kind of meeting, it's just staff shows up and look.
gotcha,
goes
okay,
over.
and look at proposals, okay,
And
Generally,
Thank you.
applicants have, if they go, they just generally sit and listen to
okay,
what staff is talking
Okay.
about, because it's a staff meeting. It's
gotcha,
not-
okay.
not-
I wanted to understand that process a little bit more.
And
Thank-
so, we had DRT meetings scheduled for several months. And we're only getting the health department and the fire department were the only ones outside of those planning and engineering staff that are showing up to it. So we changed that, and now when someone makes application, then Lisa, who, if you didn't know, she's our new planner one. She's been in the position for a little while, but just so everybody knows, she's our planner one. And so she reviews that, sends that application out to a whole slew of folks, right? So it's the gas company, it's the recorder software. Anyway,
Yeah.
we've gotten substantially more comments back as an email DRT
Okay.
than we did as an in-person DRT.
Okay, great, thank you.
And so if somebody did want to do something like that, they could just go through Lisa and have it sent out to all the DRT.
Yeah, thank you.
And then, on, point six, meeting materials. So before it says the materials will be available right here. But then that runs into conflict if somebody comes over here to see.
Yeah.
The planning document, and then they talk to Dana, and Dana's like, well, you need to go talk to the planning department about it. We're just changing that location. We'll still post here, and we'll still post in the library, and we'll still have copies here and copies in the library. But, we'll also have those, and we did that with the water, use and preservation element, we got it on there since June 1st.
That's because the planning department used to be. Right, ours.
And then just an application, other participation. So the county code and state code allows for the electronic participation of commissioners, and it allows for them for a quorum to be met, which would include people who are in real-time electronic means. We have the resolution 2944 that allows that, and also state code allows that. So we're just updating that in the quorum under 5.15 that allows them to be counted by electronic, if they're here by electronic means. They're a quorum, but then they can also vote. And that's the part with the 16.
Same carries through 16.
Yeah. And then we get to Article 6, ethical considerations. There's been some changes, and so what I sent out is different than what is passed out today. And it identifies that planning recusal of planning commission members is governed by land use code 8.1.3 F. Which we'll talk about in a minute, but we've identified that when a member has a conflict of interest, has a personal or financial interest in the land use application, or when the member's participation will create an actual impermissible bias. And that was put into state code, May 5th of 2026. This impermissible bias or an unacceptable risk of impermissible bias, the administrative or quasi-judicial matter as provided. So we're going to be amending this into section 8 of the land use code. The state law does not tell us what an impermissible bias is. I googled it just a minute ago, so we'll.
Or no acceptable risk of an impermissible bias.
Yeah,
Acceptable risk. Admissible bias, lawyer wrote that.
yeah, so,
Nice.
Senator Danny McKay, who is an attorney, was the
Yeah.
sponsor of this
Senator
legislation.
McKay.
So,
Wonderful guy. He is called there.
In any case, it's state law, so.
We're gonna fall.
yeah, so, I looked this up just a second ago, so it should show up here again.
Probably have to find it in the.
Oh, yeah, so it's financial conflicts, prior involvement, identity prejudice. Impartial, so impartial, it's impermissible. Anyway. There's a Google definition of what it is, but it's not in state code.
It's just,
Anyway,
you got a financial interest in it in any way, you should recuse it.
so, but there's also, if you're coming to the meeting prejudged in whether you're gonna vote one way or the other, that's not permissible. And so you could be removed from the planning commission, or at least for that item, if you've got this impermissible bias. Lisa, would you mind Googling impermissible bias, because it identifies some certain things that are related there. And then we've got the removal from commission.
Hold on a second, so
Sure.
let's say. Water main thing, let's say. I'm like, I'm going to vote no on this in an editorial, that would be an impermissible bias.
I would say so, if you said ahead of a meeting, yeah.
Yeah, this is on the agenda, I'm
Sure.
gonna vote this down,
I
you
think,
can't say that?
So it says.
Ooh.
But
but I also, I mean,
Well, you've heard all the evidence.
So Lisa,
That's it.
read what it says just off of Google.
Excuse me, impermissible. Impermissible bias is an illegal or unfair prejudice in decision-making characterized by financial conflicts of interest, prejudgment of facts, and discrimination based on protected traits. It violates rules of fairness and due process by skewing outcomes against specific individuals or groups. And then there's a number of legal and administrative context.
but I think it's okay to write an editorial and say, I voted no for this and these are the reasons why.
Right,
After the fact.
Yeah, I think it's just prior
Don't do it
to,
before.
I'm just surprised, like,
No.
a politician goes on TV and I'm voting this
Yeah.
bill down.
well,
Like, we
let's
can't.
hope that this is why we created these
Yeah,
situations,
okay,
right?
I just think it's interesting,
It's different for.
cause my
legislature.
loud mouth.
He's a legislator.
So for a lawmaker, they can do that,
Uh,
but for the planning
right,
commission,
that's what I'm getting
you
at,
have to come
yeah,
in
yeah, okay,
with different eyes than a legislator.
I'm just trying to get that straight.
Right, yep,
Windmills, yeah, but
Questions, sir?
And it's also, again, in an administrative or quasi judicial matter.
According to state law.
Not something, you might put something and say,
sure,
I'm for such and such in the general plan. That's a different issue.
sure. I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or even like, sorry, but like when we're deliberating and we say like, I'm probably not going to vote for this at this point, I think that. That's not, or is that considered
I think it's
impermissible, if
you're
we're in
coming-
the discussion
if
and
you're
we're
coming
saying.
Coming to the meeting that way, that I don't care what's gonna happen, I'm voting no for this. But, I'm not an attorney, so I can have, the Stephen Stocks come to our next meeting and talk about impermissible bias.
I only ask that because there are times where I feel probably all of us at one point or another have said like, I'm probably not gonna vote for this for X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
If the circumstances were, or like when we don't
Yeah,
have an
yeah.
updated code. Is that a,
at the meeting versus coming in
Right.
prejudice, so
but before the
regardless of
meeting
what,
itself?
yeah, so regardless of what information is provided to you, you've already decided you're voting no. That's impermissible bias, right? Or if you're saying because someone is of a certain ethnicity or gender or
Or
age.
I just don't like Randy the Realtor, and no matter what he brings in, I'm not.
I'm not gonna vote for this because it's an old folks home.
That was
That's
just
not-
not. Yeah.
That's what I was gonna think,
So
if
the
you could
protected classes that you can.
wait until the vote and then say,
Fair.
this is why.
Oh, no, you could, in deliberations, you could say.
Okay.
This is why I'm voting.
Because I think all of us
None
have
of this
it, yeah, for
information,
sure,
yeah,
yeah.
none of this information is
Poor,
helping.
poor Sarah over here has been trying to get a word in for like 5 minutes.
I asked ChatGPT to give me a definition of that for a non-lawyer, and it says. Bias is having a preference or opinion, right? We all have that, right?
Hmm.
Clearly, you sit in this meeting, that's very clear. Impermissible bias is allowing an unlawful or unfair prejudice to influence a decision when you're required to be fair and impartial. So to sit here and be like, I'm not gonna form an opinion until I get to that meeting, we all come with a bias. Like you just can't not have that, so anyway, that's simple.
I think we've worked that one pretty good.
And it's
Except
the one
Aaron
that's,
still has a
Well, no,
question.
I actually had a tag on question because I noticed this at a commission meeting, like. I always wondered this, like, you have to have a separate account on any social media, right? That doesn't apply to any of us, right? Okay, just making fun, cause we're not elected. Is that why?
We're appointed
Okay,
and we can't.
I just wanna make sure
I
that.
just read it.
Just-
All right, on to the next.
and so the removal from commission,
Could I get,
Yeah.
so I have one and I want people to look at it carefully. It is on the ex parte communication and I've got one small change, but I'll tell you why. The very first part of it says planning commissioners shall not have any ex parte parte discussions applying to any business before the commission. I one time had this thrown at me. I said, any business? That means all kinds of business, and it would mean general plan, et cetera. Now, I do understand, and Jerry led me through it last time. Yeah, but it describes it below. Right, by saying, for purposes of the planning commission policy, ex parte communications include.
Yeah.
I still worry about the word include, but I was told that meant that was all of it. So here's what I'm proposing. Planning commissioners shall not have any ex parte communications, period. So you get rid of regarding any business before the commission, and then it says, for the purposes of the planning commission ex parte, it goes on and describes it. So I think it would be clearer just to get rid of regarding any business before the planning commission. I rest my case.
Okay.
and
So,
Well,
so ex parte is one-sided.
yes.
So it's not like outside of Viva's, you're only getting it from one side and not the other, right?
And then it describes what ex parte communication
yeah,
is.
it further defines
And-
them below.
I don't know, maybe Lisa remembers, but. Or Commissioner, if anybody remembers when anybody has declared that they had ex parte
Oh, yeah.
communication,
Yeah,
I have two,
a couple times, right?
yeah.
So it's kind of like,
I talked to somebody about a water tower at one point.
Sure, well,
And I said, oh, this person talked to me about the water tower. And they've submitted a letter that says the same thing to the commission, but I had that discussion outside.
so,
And that's disclosure.
Yeah.
Just disclosing.
I mean, it's,
Shall be.
I don't know that there's a lot of disclosures ex parte, so it's almost, do we even have that or not? And so maybe that's a.
I think that,
I think it's important to
I
have.
would think we need to have it.
honestly, I think OB's suggestion makes a lot of sense because it forces you to look at the next paragraphs.
Yeah.
Or we just condense and say a planning commissioner shall not have any ex parte discussions. Including, and then we just start with the list.
Well, they kind of define, what they do below though is define what they mean by ex
Right.
parte.
Yeah,
It kind of says you can have ex parte, it just has to be disclosed.
But I'll run this all,
You try to avoid it usually.
Yeah, I'd run it by Steve.
Yeah.
I'll run it through Bart.
I would, yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, I would, because I think that's not a
Yeah.
bad thought process.
So then specifically, what you're gonna run by Stephen is just striking the regarding any business.
Yeah, and to see how,
Ask him
well,
if that's
actually, I'm
okay.
gonna send this whole thing
Yeah,
to him and Bart
yeah.
and say, this is the stuff we discussed, do you have any?
Yeah.
Legal opinions on any of it?
Okay.
Maintaining public impartiality, deliberating about a specific pending land use application in the planning commission meeting with county staff, an elected official, or the land use applicant is normal part of commission businesses, not by itself. Cost for removal as provided in the land use code. So we just say we've got kind of a safe harbor of being able to discuss items in certain situations, county staff, elected officials.
Yeah, that's good, because I talk to you sometimes about it.
So that gives you that safe harbor there.
Yeah.
And then the last one is in, that I've got is 7.3, removal from the commission. So the planning commission will request the resignation of a member for reasons of attendance and or ethical considerations. And then it goes on that the county commission, they remove a commission member for a cause by a 2/3 vote prior to the expiration of the appointed term in accordance with the causes and procedures set out in Land Use Code 8.1.3 F. The cause for removing, for removal include, and this is out of state code, using public funds for a political purpose under Title 20, Chapter 11, Part 12B, 12B, violating the applicable Office of Employees Ethics Act, and C, acting with the intent to influence a land use decision or an appeal of a pending application in a manner that creates actual impermissible bias or an unacceptable risk of impermissible bias in the member's administrative or quasi-judicial duties, and that's taken from state code. Those three.
Yeah. Looks like it was.
So I just have a question on the procedure set out in the land use code, section 813 F. You want to put that in there because at some point when we get our rewrite, that might be changed. Then we'd have to go through this and change the book. That
Yeah.
section.
Because we're expecting this will be adopted by resolution prior to.
That. Well, we need to
completed.
find out where F is, because it's not in the book.
Yeah, in the other hand,
Why
In
didn't
the next, yeah, it's in the next thing.
Oh, it's in your,
our next topic for discussion.
oh, okay, I see, thanks, sorry.
Yep.
Okay, I just looked up F, I can't find that.
Yep,
And you
yep.
thought we were almost done.
I did.
So then we get to Title 8 that deals with the planning commission, and of course, obviously, it's doing different things. Under 8.1.3 organization, it states that we have 7 regular members of the county commission, and the county, or the planning commission, the county commission will choose to appoint 1 non-voting ex officio member. Of the county commission to serve as liaison, and this was brought up before, we talked about it where we have more than. So you want to forward it to the county commission, saying more than 1 or more, but then we also have an issue that there's a difference between an ex officio member and a liaison. An ex officio member can do everything except for make motions and vote. Liaison is tasked with just bringing information back and forth. So I think it should be good to determine if you want this to be an ex officio member that has all deliberative abilities, but cannot make a motion or vote, or if you want it to be a liaison position, And you can determine that, recommend that information to the county commission to amend the code, however you want to do it. Yeah. Then, on page 2,
And I guess, Andrew, with regards to 8.1, since this is in land use code, we would need a public hearing to make it.
oh, yeah, but just be thinking where you wanna go with that,
Yeah.
ex officio versus liaison, one or more.
I wonder if it would be beneficial when you go to the county commission meetings anyways. Really, we have 2 ex officio members because the county commission deemed it so. But but that decision is not in compliance with 8.1. So maybe you could get an opinion from them in the next meeting regarding, how they would like to see their desire described in land use code.
Okay, and I know that was one of the things that Stephen earlier had said. Hey, this appears to be out of alignment with the
Right.
practice, so.
And
we'll
I
talk
think
about
the
that.
message to them would be, look, we're gonna make revisions to 8.1. They're gonna have to go through you for approval anyways, why don't we get?
You want an ex
alignment?
officio or liaison?
Yeah,
And the
and
number.
the number, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a fine, make a
All right,
comment.
great.
I've been on the planning commission, or I've been a planning commission liaison for quite a long time now, and I always was just a liaison. And I personally, I think that's how it should be. I think it should be a person that, I always sat in the, in the crowd and came up and gave reports and then took information back and then asked, if people had questions, I would answer questions, but I would rather that's how it is. I think this is a really great board and I'd just like to sit back and ingest what y'all have to say. If you want the county commission to make that decision, I think that's fine, but that was always the role. And it has changed, it was changed,
You
Not
better
very
say
long ago.
person.
Yeah.
When they were invited to the table.
Yeah. And really, the county commission ultimately approves or doesn't approve whatever we put forward, so. I think it'd be helpful to get some opinion from them.
This has always been my debate about that,
Mhm.
and
And,
not against you or against Jerry or anybody else.
and Randy, it's time we resolve that.
Thank you.
So we're gonna be doing that over the next.
As I keep going.
Okay, so this also,
Here you
we
go,
talked
Sam.
about,
Aaron, you had a question?
Yeah, I still hung up on the removal from commission. There's a language in there, causes for removal include, and then it does A, B, and C. Does that, it almost hints that there's more reasons. Right? Like when you say reasons to include are this, and it's like not only,
yeah, I think so those A, B, and C are from state code.
okay,
And so I think that language of may may include A, B, and C.
cause in the past, we had language, it was like, we served at the pleasure of the commission. And I never really liked that because, I think,
It's pretty specific in there now, isn't it, with this change?
yeah, I just was making sure it was like, oh, hey, well, we can make another reason,
And so,
you know?
yeah, and that's up for debate. There's nothing that says that,
Well, what I'm worried about is like we have a commie takeover and they wanna kick out Randy here and, but I don't want him. I want Randy's voice in there. And that's why I think one of the great things with the commission, planning commission, it kind of has this, like it's 2 years behind. And I think there's good discussions in there, like, anyways, that was one thing that I saw in there that I was just wondering about, because we definitely have had members that were like, maybe I gotta kick them out.
I also, it's the same reason I don't like the wording, the word include always bothers me also in the ex parte, is this? Those are all the reasons, or is it, it includes these things, but there's a whole list of other things it could include. Although this actually makes it a little harder to remove because they need a 2/3 vote.
Right, I guess.
And it does say for cause, and of course, that's when you grab your lawyer and say, is that a cause? So I'm pretty okay with that wording, it seems to me.
Jobs are too.
That's a good point, though.
I understood.
It always is a good point.
And also going back to 8.1.3 it says that a county commission member, county commission members may not serve as regular members of the planning commission. They're elected officials, and they hold actually all three powers. And so there's the question of, well, Mr. O'Brien is an elected town council member. And could we
It
have?
is true, except that no one's ever voted for me, because no one has run against me. And I've served 10 years with nobody running against me. But you're right, I understand.
And then, you know, could we have a Moab council member or the Moab there, or
Yeah.
what's the Cane Creek? Can we have one of their appointed officials as a planning commission member? And so I checked with Stephen and Bart, and they said that if it's not a county commissioner, although it may be elected official of a town or city, that's permitted, and you just have to
Disclose.
disclose and possibly recuse yourself from any votes that may be in conflict with your oath to the town of Castle Valley.
Maybe if we were seeking a grant from the county or something, I might not be able to vote on it.
So it would be, and I think it's probably not so much for you, but say if there was a member of the Moab
Yeah.
City Council on, and there's an annexation
Exactly,
discussion.
that's, you'd have to
Or-
recuse yourself.
Yeah, zoning on the borderline or something like
Exactly.
that, then you'd have to do that, but there's no
Yeah.
separation of powers issue with you or others being elected officials of other communities serving on it.
People's Republic of Castle Valley.
No. I'm only a town councilor, but there are 315 citizens.
But I think it's good to even just say that out loud. We've covered our bases, we've said those things out loud.
And
Um,
I want more closing thought. I remember when Trish, it would just sit in the audience in the past. And I just feel like checking in, even if we have to sit between you and Brian, it's good to hear the 2 points of where the commission is at. I just think that is so good to be like, oh, no, like we are so far off of anything that they'll vote in. You know, it's like, actually with the Baroques, I'm like, oh, why didn't you mention the traffic thing? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, I would put my 2 cents. I like their participation because I feel like it makes us touch grass a little bit with the realities on that, and having 2. Like, personally, I hope there's always 2 kind of, different viewpoints from the commission.
At least two.
Yeah, they can all come, more the merrier. you know?
That's actually a pretty good.
And the mayor of Central Valley. So, even the mayor.
I'm not.
I'm keeping you.
And then it's to the chairman to chair. And then instead of saying that the planning commission meetings were bumped through the county, the county through the planning department staff. And the that are very capable. Everyone who does an excellent job in all things planning related and keeping us ABG folks in mind. And then 9 on there was to be added members and the public may participate in planning commission meetings by real-time electronic meetings as provided by section of the code and the county ordinance. A member participating by real-time electronic means counts towards a quorum and may participate in the quorum. And again, there's some things that it's in the bylaws, right? But those are by resolution, kind of, how we operate. But then this is actually the law in the land use code. And then this new section F, the removal and recusal, and this is based off of the law that just changed in May 1779 3013A. So removal authority and procedure, a planning commission member may be removed from the planning commission for cause by 2/3 vote of the county commission prior to expiration of the term. Cause for removal, and this is where we have, this is Springfield State Code, the AEP and CME, I point out that I often miss things, no matter how many times I've gone through it, and you know, it's, Mary will bring up things that I'm like, oh, okay. So in F2B, you may have noticed that violating a provision of Title 10, Chapter 30, Part 13, the Municipal Officers and Employees Ethics Act, state code has the wrong reference. So it should be the county officers ethics act, right? But they're actually in the section that deals with the county planning commission, they're referencing the municipal planning commission's act. So I just want to go on the record that I'm not the only one who makes a mistake, but this is actually reviewed by numerous attorneys, plus allegedly all of the legislators who voted in favor of this, even those that voted opposed to it, and nobody thought that it references Title 10.
Back to the.
Well, maybe we have to use the city one. They will have to use.
Sure. If they used AI, they would have come.
Mhm.
Probably not.
Yep. Let's see, deliberation, not cause for removal, again, this places that safe harbor. A member deliberating about a specific pending land use application in a planning commission meeting with county staff. An elected official or a land use applicant is not cause for removing the member from the planning commission. So you can't be kicked off the planning commission for deliberating at the meeting. This is recusal. A member shall recuse himself or herself from deliberating or voting on a land use application when the member has a conflict of interest under the county officers and employees ethics provisions, or which should be what that said about Leadville County ordinance, when the member has a personal or financial interest in the application, when the member's participation would create natural or impermissible bias or an unacceptable risk of unacceptable bias in an administrative or quasi judicial matter, accused member shall not participate in, comment on, or vote on the matter. And then we just got, again, bookkeeping in 8.1.4 C to bring it up to what the current code is.
Hashed out pretty well.
Nice work, Andrew.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's good.
Thanks for everybody's input and work. So I'll make those suggested changes. I'll send everything off to Stephen and Art. And then if we get things back in time to hold a public hearing at our next meeting, why don't we just come back as a work session on it at the next meeting, and then if it is where everybody feels good at, then we would have notice of public hearing. Public hearing is only for the land use code resolution on the bylaws that are not adopted by.
That'd be the mid-August meeting, and if it still goes on for.
Andrew, do we have enough folks for the third meeting, August 3rd? We're in quorum.
Who can
We've
attend or
got-
Do
attend?
we need a
You,
quorum? for that?
Jerry and Mary, and then Sarah remotely, and I have not heard from,
Oh, yeah.
I'll be here.
okay,
Sorry.
yeah, we're good then.
It always changes.
And it looks like I'm not going on the rivers.
That's a bummer.
Bummer.
So sad. Different ribbon.
I don't wanna take up smoke. That's for sure. That's a lot of smoke up there.
Yeah, there's a lot of snow.
That's a good decision not to go there. For now.
We've already, but they'll just take a trip at another time.
Are we voting on that? We haven't voted on that. Is that what we're doing?
We will, on the third, we will be having a meeting to vote on amending
Did you get this?
ordinance.
Yeah, let's see, please.
Oh, I didn't do it.
Oh, wait, no, I think I just gave you the last one.
I brought
Yeah,
this back.
I got it.
Oh, the wrong one.
I've got it. I was trying to figure that out. Yes, I have it right here.
Yeah, so,
August third meeting.
yeah, so it's a public hearing, it's been posted.
Okay.
We'll, talk about
So you
amending.
said public hearing and the word quick in the same sentence?
Fingers crossed. So we're amending ordinance 725, which put a date, so 725 was passed in October. By the county commission with a completion date for the water tank of December of 2025, so I'll give it 2 months to complete it. Obviously, that was wrong, so the new ordinance would say 2 years until like December of 2027. And if they need an extension of time for completion, then it would come through me instead of needing to go back to the county commission by ordinance, so the county commission by ordinance. So I'm end up by a month or two. And then also the major utility overlay requires a development agreement. However, ordinance 725 had the wrong description than what it states in their code for what is the development agreement is required on. I think 725 said it's like mitigation during construction, but the code says it's kind of being how you're going to be compatible while it's operating, right? And so, but we need to change the development agreement to be consistent with ordinance 713 because 725 was not compliant with 713. So just change that section as well. There will be a development agreement, but that's going to the county commission because they're the ones that approve that. If you'd like, I mean, I can include in the packet the
Andrew,
proposed development agreement if you like, just to see it.
Andrew, I think the more important thing from my perspective is the issue of the land patent.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's my understanding that that land patent grants, I guess, is it a governmental use only or public use only, something like that, right? But I'm not sure that the document that you sent actually clearly stated that.
Yep, and so I forwarded that patent to Stephen and Bart
Good.
said today that it was okay.
Okay. So we will have that as a part of the package.
Yeah, the water tank on that
It
property.
looked like to me it had a 25-year window.
Yeah, but then again, it didn't say like any purpose, but I can't
It
remember
was
what the
pretty
exact
vague.
wording was, but yeah.
My question was it had a timeline, 25 years.
Well,
That would have been 1970.
Or just the cemetery portion.
That was the
Yeah.
original purpose.
Right, and then it can open up after that, but I think there's a question of, would a cemetery fall under that? Cemetery water tank fall under what it could do after the expiration of the cemetery thing? Bart said today that yes,
It does fall under public use and it would be acceptable.
It's pretty wide the way the
And
government's.
you did
passed.
include the development.
oh, did I? Okay.
Yeah.
Did I include the patent in there?
I found that there's a development agreement, the utility overlay, the standards. But it does have the development. agreement.
In any case, we should be here to discuss the details of that.
You think
Maybe it
they
would
come up
be-
with some questions on it?
No, I
Oh,
think
he
we should.
submitted
Yes,
it.
I think why.
Like of this for the.
yeah, did you send it out?
Yeah, so
This,
it's all of those things. Published.
But I think that was a big part of our question last time.
Uh,
So
The,
from
that,
this.
the patent.
well, just the whole,
This
packet
whole
for
thing.
November or for August 3rd.
Oh, yeah,
Open
I did, yeah.
Look at that, came almost all the way.
Yeah.
Is it possible to have someone from legal here during that time? Because that really was a big part of
No, I
the
think
discussion.
Yeah, I let it go specifically.
Thursday.
That was the issue. Planning commission, making sure that it was okay with the patent, that it be used as a water tank, and there's another thing, they've got the legal description as. Well, they say the parcel number, which is the entire 28 acres, that's not where it's going to be. And then they've got some of that kind of narrowed down to lot 7 and then any portion of lot 6, the southeast. The road, but we wouldn't accept that legal description.
When that
from
patent
anybody
was
else.
issued, there was no Spanish Valley Trail.
Yeah, I'm not sure
There's no trail.
if that's actually been,
The issue that came up in that meeting was not so much whether or not that patent could be. The use as a water tank would be in compliance with the patent. I think most of us really didn't care. That's a city responsibility, and if they can't get the BLM to transfer for that use, that's their problem, right? The issue was whether or not it could be used for other than public use. And that's really the question that,
okay,
and
There is
it's my
that.
understanding that it can't be. It has to be a public use.
That's my understanding too, Jared, because I've been in meetings with the cemetery board and with the city manager, and that was our understanding too.
And see, the planning commission ended up declining, voting no on it, and I
Right,
think the
601.
outcome. The outcome would have been different had we understood that there is no chance this could be used for anything other than public use.
Okay.
And so that's really the thing we would like clarification from legal.
I think the only other holdup we had in that meeting was we didn't know it was an in-ground one.
Yeah. Well, that was
We
in
had it.
drawings. It was.
But when the city did the presentation to
Yeah, they
the
didn't
county
make that
commission,
clear.
yeah, it wasn't
Yes.
until after and all of us
it's
were
buried
like,
in, page 100.
yeah.
So,
And Andrew, is it possible to have somebody from the city at that meeting also?
they should be,
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah, I think.
they're aware of
Okay,
it, so. I hope somebody be there.
yeah, they-
They're the only thing they show.
Yeah.
And
I
that
just-
was the one future consideration I had is if you could have someone from legal here that could actually verify that it's public use.
Sure, yep,
You
I
know,
think
that's
it's safe to do that because it's county and city anyway.
Yeah,
It would be smarter for us to have legal there regardless.
yeah, I know, I had a
Tell Stocks to come on over.
Zoom meeting, with the city and, Mark Tyner, we were in that meeting and the city's attorney said that, the county wasn't permitted to have a development agreement, except if it was like a subdivision, whatever, and all you had to do was read like the next section down in state code to realize that you could have one because it's a zone change, major utility overlay is a zone change, so it's permitted there, so, yeah, it's good to have our council as well as they agree.
Also, just so the communities know that we're not just doing some shady business.
Yeah.
Cause this is giving people that impression.
I'm not surprised to all the goodies you went through with that, so.
well, that'd be good for you to go through the second time. Actually, it's. I think they did a nice job of minimizing the visual impact on it.
They did.
Yeah.
The big issue that came up here was. What's the best use for that land and why would you put a tank there? Well, if you're restricted.
To only,
Yeah,
Public use.
Public use.
Yep, I get it.
anyway,
it is on the other side of the road from the cemetery proper.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
All right, any other future consideration? Seeing none, I'd entertain the motion to adjourn.
I still move.
Oldie
I
moves.
will second that.
Motion passes.
Thanks, you.
Yeah. Well, I'll go, 'cause
Yeah, it was cheap, right? It was expensive.
All right, thank you.
I used to judge this.